And we're back with another video from Request. The Sift. The Sift.
Man coffee.
Man coffee. Selection instrument for flight training, everyone. That daunting task that sits between you and the selection board. So the Sift was the test that replaced the AFAST?
AFAST.
The AFAST. The issue with the AFAST was the military or the Army thought that there was too much general information online that you could just find out and you could ace this test without knowing it. What the Sift was designed to do was to test your aptitude for being a pilot. They designed it to where there wouldn't be a lot of studying material, which makes it hard for guys and girls like us to figure out what to do to prepare ourselves. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over just some brief stuff like the sections in the Sift, how to study for each section, some of the things we did, and see if we can help you guys out a little bit.
Well, the big thing too is just like we said in the previous videos, guys, is this is your money. Like the Sift score, this is the big deal. You can actually get in, and you may not bring a whole lot to the table as far as your profile or what else, but if you score really well on this, the Army will be willing to consider. So, like
we said, it's the aptitude to do the job. First off, we're gonna go over how many times you can take this test. Twice in your life. So you get your first shot. Probably done at MEPS or an education center, depending on if you're prior or street to seat. Yeah. I took mine at MEPS. Sucked. The proctor, they assign you a proctor, and while you take the test, this guy's like,
I'm very uncomfortable again.
Mm-hmm. He literally watches you for however long. It took me like 2.5, 3 hours to do this test, so he's right up here.
And for you prior service guys, so once again, we talked about it a little bit in the last video, but if you're trying to take the Sift, you have to take it at education center. The only people that can take it at MEPS are street to seat guys. And basically anybody civilian that needs to take a test takes it at MEPS. So for you prior, like I said last time, if you're in the Navy, get your 1306-7 to get your DD-368. Without the DD-368, it's not happening. So you have to present that and a CAT card when you go take the test, but we'll move on.
Cool, so I'm gonna lay it out for you. The scores, how it's gonna work, what qualifies you, what is a retest, things like that. So, your Sift score outcome, the minimum score you can get, which is not passing, is a 20, and that's pretty much if you just write your name correctly on the test, they'll give you 20 points. To pass the Sift, you need a 40. Now, what's scary is if you get a 40 regardless, like I knew this guy who he got halfway through the test and felt like he was bombing it. So what he did is he pretty much hit C the entire way down just to fail the test so we could retake it 6 months later. Granted, it's 180 days after the first test before you can retake. He passed with a 41. Just hitting C's. So that was his Sift score, and you're not authorized to ever retake it if you get a passing score. So be careful. If you get a 40, you've passed, but it's the minimum. The average is 50, that's the mean, and the maximum is 80. So you're shooting from 50 to 80. 60 club is what most of the guys around here got. 60s. We don't have any 70s. So if you get a 70, more power to you.
I got a 61 and it worked for me.
Yep, so I'm right around there. Now what's cool is the exact method and how it's calculated is still a little Army secret, but how it works is, let's say you do really well in the mathematics section, but you don't do so well in the spatial recognition section. Doing really well in one section can kind of balance out doing really bad in another section. So if you do suck at math or you suck at paragraph comprehension, but you're really good at, I don't know, hidden figures or another section that we're going to go over here in a little bit, keep in mind that kind of be your saving grace. I don't know if you have any tips on that. I like to focus on an area you're strong at, or what?
We'll touch up on the stuff that you know you're weak on. Okay, so if you go up and you look at the Sift, you know that we're gonna cover a lot of the sections here in a second. But I knew that it had been 12 years since I'd seen Algebra 2. So I went up and I refreshed on Algebra 2. If you guys go on YouTube, there's actually a guy, we'll do a little shout out, it's called Math Guy. If you look at his stuff, it's kind of kiddish. It's he films it while he's teaching a class. I think it might be a low high school course or something like that. But he breaks it down, and that's a lot of the math that you're going to see, just like the ASVAB, is going to be about Algebra 1, Algebra 2. And then we'll get into some of the study guides too, because we have a little bit of an issue with one of the study guides, but
we'll jump into that.
Yeah, we'll move.
So we'll jump into that, studying for this, where to go, where to reach out to. It's kind of like the ASVAB in the sense of there's just so much to cram for. I took about 2 months to study for this test just because I understood the magnitude of it. Along with your LORs and everything else that goes into this packet, your Sift score is really going to be what the selection board looks at when your packet goes across their table. And when they're comparing him and I, and everything else is pretty much average, but my Sift score or his Sift score is that much better. That'll be your differentiating factor to get you in this program. So like, let's face it, if you want to pass, you're gonna have to put in some book hours. Now the issue that we had is we went out and bought. Accepted, yeah. So
I don't know if we can call them out like that, but it's that book.
That book. So
don't screw yourself over.
The general information was cool. It kind of gave you an idea of what the test looked like, the practice questions, but the math was completely wrong. So you're doing a math problem, and you're already stressed out from studying, and you're like, this is wrong. Like I keep getting everything wrong. Well, the book is wrong, and it's in all of the Amazon reviews. Before you buy anything, make sure you read some reviews on it, because this is such a new test that these study guides aren't.
I actually went to Mathnasium, and the owner for the Mathnasium that I went to took a look at some of the math problems, and he even said they were wrong. So check the reviews. Don't stress yourself out on the math. I found actually that a lot of the math in that book didn't really even apply anyway. There was maybe a couple of questions that looked similar on the actual test. I'm not going to get into what's actually on the test, but just study for Algebra 2. Usually, if you know Algebra 2, you'll be pretty good. Order of operations.
So now let's give you some first account advice on each section and how we did it. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different sections on the Sift. Like I said, it's kind of like the ASVAB with the 9 sections, and you bounce from section to section. But these, to be honest, this test kicked my butt. This was not an easy test at all. So the first one, it's called Simple Drawings, and here's where they get you. There is, I want to say, what is it, like 100?
There's 100.
There is 100 simple drawings. Now what that looks like is there'll be 5 A through E multiple choice, and the first 4 will all be lowercase d's, and then the last one will be a capital D. So what it's testing is your ability to make a critical decision fast on which one is different. So in each question, there's going to be an outlier. One of the choices is going to be different from the other ones. Now, what they're testing is not your ability to do all 100 questions, but how far and how accurate you can get within the 100 questions. And I want to say, 2 minutes?
Speed accuracy in 2 minutes. You're not going to finish, and if you do, you're
probably wrong.
You're a mutant, or you sped through it, and somewhere along the line you didn't really care whether or not you were hitting them right.
So they're looking for, like I said, more accuracy, and then depending on your accuracy, how far you can get. So just there's not really a bunch of ways to test for that or to train for that. Just know that when you go into it, you have 2 minutes, and you need to go as fast as possible. So get your clicky finger ready. Next up is your Army Aviation Information Test.
This is the important one. This is the important one.
Okay, so just to touch on that, what I did for that, just by reading like forums and blogs online on how to study, I went out and I printed this mammoth of a study guide. So first off is the FAA Rotor Wing Handbook, right? And that's...
Read that cover to cover.
Listen, take 2 months and just make sure you're ready for it. So it's got everything. It's got all the fundamentals of flight, blah, 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 blah. You'll get into all this good stuff. Plus,
it's the rotary wing one.
It's going to be your bread and butter once you get to flight school. Trust me, your 5s and 9s. So after that, I went and I printed off Fundamentals of Flight Army Edition. So this is literally what the Army will issue you at flight school. It's on I want to say it's like a mill suite. You can actually get theirs offline for free. I printed off that. It's the same concept as the FAA, except it's more based on what the military uses to teach. So go out, go to Staples, spend however much money you got to spend, and print off these 2 books and read them cover to cover. Make a little binder, highlight them, get them in color, get the diagrams. This saved my butt. So like I said, it's a mammoth. You're looking at a while.
And get familiar with the terms. Get familiar with the terminology.
I still actually have my study sheet from learning fundamentals of flight. So I mean, you can literally see that you put in work. So if it's worth it to you, this is only going to benefit you when you get to where we're at right now. So just start now.
Know that the pedals are anti-torque pedals. Know that the
3 Isaac Newton's laws.
You definitely need to know those. They will ask you about all those.
You also want to know things like I forget what it's called. Bernoulli's principle.
Bernoulli's principle.
Sorry.
He's not a geologist.
Not a geologist. Moving on though. So that's kind of what I did for that section, and like I said, that's going to be your fundamentals of aviation, Army aviation. Another thing to look up into that section is what the Army uses each helicopter for, like what the mission is, what the platforms are called, what the actual term, like Black Hawk is the UH-60. And you got your Mike model, your Lima model. Look at the Lakota, the Kiowa, the Chinook, the Apache, what their mission set is. I'm sure if you're an aviation buff like we are, and you're trying to get into this program, you already know your fair share. So just brush up on that.
You probably already picked your aircraft.
Exactly. You're probably 50 years into your career already.
You've already.
Following that is going to be your spatial appreciation test. Now this is cool. This is fun.
It's pretty easy. It's pretty easy, but a lot of people overthink it. A lot of people make it complicated. All they're doing is they're showing you a picture of a plane and what it's doing, or it'll be either that or it'll be a cockpit view.
You'll see the horizon.
And you're going to see the horizon, and then you got to pick which picture represents the cockpit view that you've seen. If you go get one of the study guides, this is actually something that Accepted did well. It was also something on the AFAST. If you took the Navy version of the test, it's also on that. It's in every aviation exam that the military offers. So it's been around for a while, and most of the study guides have it right.